We are red is on.
Well, greetings and welcome to Thursday, October 17th, 2019 Selectmen's Meeting. You could all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You threw me, Kathy.
Feathered the lawns. Somewhere else.
You sat down too soon. Oh, we can do, well, we don't have minutes?
No,
Here, so-
minutes.
Oh, come on now, Tim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't relax too much. We're getting you right through.
All right, so originally I was hoping to have a discussion with you about the tax rate. However, our school district and also Lockmere Village have yet to finish their paperwork that is required. So we're going to have to put it off till next week. But hopefully they'll have everything in and we can go through, our portion of this. Our revenues look good, the expenses look good. I think we're in good shape, but it's going to have to wait a week. In terms of some of the budget updates, I'll also have a full budget for you next week. I've got a few more things that have come in. Our insurances for property liability, workers' comp, unemployment, also Lakes Region Planning Commission came in. And then in the prior budget, I wasn't aware of the money that needed to be added for the grant. So that's in the 2020 budget, the $6,000 for the transportation grant. And probably the largest change in the budget that you're going to see is in the workers' comp line. Part of that is because of our claims experience. And part of that is the way we've changed how we handle their premium holidays. So in the past, we've used that as an offset of the budgeted amount, and this year we took that as a revenue. So if you look at a historical budgeted figure for workers' comp, it is much higher than what our budget was for 2019. So I'll explain that when we go through and when you look at it, so you have a clear picture of that. But in any case, we're still looking at about right now a 0.5% increase due to that. We also have the dental figures, that I put in and updated that, and then the long-term, short-term disability and life insurance. That's all in the budget now. So I just received this afternoon the moderator's budget. And it's big because of the 4 elections to be held in 2020. So having covered items 1 and 3, what Jeannie and I wanted to go back over were the items from last week, and hopefully get a decision on some of them, or at least a indication of how you want to proceed. And before I move on to that, I did want to ask 2 questions on the budget. One was pertaining to when you want to start seeing department heads and working those into your budget schedule, because we really need to start working on that now, having those department heads in and any outside agencies you want to see. I did attend last night's budget committee meeting, and they had 2 outside agencies there last night, which I sent you an email about. I did misspeak at the beginning of the meeting regarding whether they had a quorum or not, but no decisions were made, and I made known at the end of the meeting to the vice chair that I was incorrect, because I keep having in my head that we have 5-member budget committee, we have a 6-member budget committee, so.
7-member.
Well, we have no one as a 7th member, so.
Ooh.
We have a
Is this-
7-member board, and we may have a
Yes.
vacancy, but we have a
Well, we have a-
7-member board.
we have a
which means
vacancy.
You
Yeah.
need 4 to make your quorum.
So how many members were there last night?
3.
So they should not have had a
That's not a
meeting.
quorum.
Whether they made decisions or not, they should not have, those
Yeah.
agencies need to come in for the entire budget committee, not just for the privilege of those.
Granted,
I'm surprised they had held the meeting.
Well, they're thinking there's only 6 members, so they had half of them. But there was an open seat that they may not have realized.
The chair wasn't here.
I could see
So-
how that could happen.
in
It was
any
the
event,
vice chair.
in any event,
You have to
the,
clarify
Chair's
that.
gone.
to the-
Chair's away.
so I did make it known at the end of the meeting to the vice chair that I was incorrect in the beginning, so I take responsibility for my part in that. It was
How do we
very,
correct that?
It's redo. They have to have the outside agencies come back in and present it to the,
Yeah.
Maybe we should send out a memo to all boards and commissions, and this is your number, this is the minimum number to form a quorum, just so everyone's on par.
That's a good
Either
idea.
that or put it under the glass right there.
Yeah?
If there's 3 in your board, you have to have 2. If, 5 have to have 3, 7 have to have 4.
But also letting the
Particularly
board
if you
know how
have
many
new
members,
people.
How many are
that
on.
seats there, well, how many seats they have.
right,
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Yeah, it's not how many who come.
right.
Mhm.
right.
Okay.
So in any event, it was Hall Memorial Library last night and
Old Home Day.
Old Home Day, and I'd sent out an email to the board, and the movie is also up if you wish to watch that. And the movie from the week prior with the outside agencies that attended that week is also up. But in any case, I just wanted to bring up that this needs to be worked into your schedule somehow, along with everything else that you have. And I think we're at the point where there are a few straggling things that we're still missing, some contract-related things, but we should have those shortly.
Did we set a date to go over the budget?
I guess, I think.
Not to my knowledge.
Not yet.
Yeah,
We said
So-
we'd have this done. Remember last year, we said we'd have this done by October.
I know, we say it all the time.
I've
but it
said
never
that
is.
every year.
Well,
We have a lot to do, so we still have to meet to go over the budget and agree as a board. We have to,
and it's ready.
it looks
for you.
like we're going to have to meet with outside agencies and department heads, so we're gonna be behind.
So if you like, I can make sure that that I get on your agenda early, because both finance and IT will be, fairly quick. I've already given you, an overview of the entire budget, I think more than once now, and we are actually, I think from a timing perspective, we're still in good shape to be able to develop and provide the budget to the budget committee in the November timeframe, which was originally what we'd set out to do. So, in any event, moving on. So on item 2, so we had discussed last week retaining the intern for the balance of the year, and the salary plus the plus benefits, or taxes rather. There are no benefits with the position. Amounts to $4,650, and that's at 24 hours a week. We have identified the money for all these items, And I'll just, I don't know, I imagine that you would receive the Primex goal-setting report from the session that we conducted back in September. And so it relates, the work that he's doing now relates directly to a number of things. You know, and just, there were 4 that I just ticked off very quickly, but obviously his work on procedures and interdepartmental work is directly correlates to lack of set procedures, plans for all departments and employees. And part of what happens when we don't have all those procedures laid out, we get into issues of both communication issues or lack of communication, and then sometimes there are multiple groups or sort of contending for the same activity, thinking that, well, no, we're responsible for this, well, no, this other person's responsible for this, and having set plans and procedures really clears that whole thing up. And if there is a contention in that, it can be sorted out in this procedural process so that we come up with something that makes sense and is able to, you know, able to be documented and then updated as a living document, so that it doesn't just, you know, sit. Yes.
How far along in the process will this 10 weeks give us? Will we have a completed document, tentative draft, or?
I thought we already had a completed document.
He's still in process. So, has he interviewed you yet?
Not to the degree that he would like to.
Yeah, or me. So it's still in process.
It doesn't give us an answer.
So the question for me was, how close can we get to a document in 10 weeks?
Well, and of course it's hard to say. I think we're going to get a lot closer, at least from my things. I already have a lot of things documented, so it's really a matter of, you know, for him to look at those and see how that might interact with other departments, or, you know, mine are very procedurally step-oriented for, you know, doing certain things. But really, you know, I mean, it affects employee morale when things don't go well, and people get kind of, you know, frustrated with, you know, why is so-and-so involved in this when I thought I was doing it, kind of thing. And so it's hard to say, you know, how much can get done, but I would, I mean, the obvious answer is 10 weeks worth can get done. He's very thorough, I can tell you that. He is, you know, just does an exceptional job, very professional, and you know, so that's part of the reason for him to be working through these 10 weeks. And you know, and I know that Jeannie had identified some other activities that he could be doing as well that we discussed last week. But you know, to me, as I looked at,
for our $4,600, we're going to get value. We're going to get $4,600 worth of something for this, right?
I believe so.
on our own, I don't think we'd ever be able to complete this project.
I'm looking forward to having a document in my hand.
What he's done so far is outstanding. I've seen it. He came
I've
up and
seen,
talked to me, and he showed me what he's done, and I was like, wow.
well, do you think this document's going to be worth the 10 weeks?
What he's doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's going to be well worth it. Yes, and as Tim said, it's a very valuable thing to have in place.
Yeah,
Pat?
He's done such a good
I
job.
could see that.
Pat, do you have anything to say?
Tell you if
I
it's
have
done.
a lot of things to say. Joe, you finished?
Yeah.
I've seen some of the documents that he's done. It's really a wow factor. But last week we talked a little bit about this, and there was an issue brought up that he was going to help in the land use in some way. So some of this money and some of this time is going to be directed into the land use. And now you're sitting here saying that this 10 weeks time is going to be directed into policy and procedural, but we don't know how much policy and procedure is going to be done, and we have to answer to our taxpayers. So we're going to spend $4,600 extending an employee, which he will be an employee of us. Before he was a grant, but now he's going to be an employee. We have to answer to our taxpayers. I have not heard a direct answer of how much of land use is he going to do and how much of procedural and policy is he going to do, and is the job going to get done?
Well, land use is part of policy and procedure,
Right,
just like every
That's
other.
what I was gonna ask.
That's, yeah, and that's what I was gonna answer as well, yeah.
So it will be land use, it will be town administrator, it will be administrative assistant, it will be finance department.
But the,
Those were examples that I gave last week of some additional things. If he finishes this, there's certainly so many things that we could have him do that would bring value to this town in the 10 weeks that he's here, that if he finishes up the things that we've directed him to do, there are other things that he can do.
I'll make a motion that we retain our intern for 10 weeks at 24 hours per week at $18 an hour to continue work on process documents and assist people and assist special projects. This cost, including payroll taxes, is $4,650.
Second.
So is it my understanding that his priority will be to finish the work that he started, and that he will not be doing any other special projects until he is finished with it?
could you define the project he's working on now?
The policies and procedures.
For each department.
Yes.
Well, for the working
So
session.
like all
yes.
positions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Further discussion?
I'm good with that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm in favor.
So moved, unanimous.
Late favor.
A little delayed.
Thank you, I think that's well worth it.
Okay.
So this second item here is related to, and I have attached to my report here, both a quote from Mango Systems and then also a diagram. And the question was asked last week, you know, what would the cost be for just the impound lot? So keep in mind, the impound, there's a base network video recorder, cabling, backup power, all that sort of thing that goes with any number of cameras that you would have. So this is not representative of what one camera would be, but to just do the impound lot, it would be a cost of $52.61. For the entire compound, it'll be $13,451. And if you take a look at the diagram that was hand drawn there that I did, this is what we originally used for our requirements, along with the requirements list, which I believe you have back from November of 2018 in one of my reports. But this shows the perimeter cameras 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 that are labeled 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. We eliminated 3, which was to duplicate the view of 4. And the fact that 4, 5, and 6 are located within one given area means that the cabling, 3 cables can be pulled, if you will, at the same time, so the labor is somewhat less for that. And then the pole and box are out at the impound lot, and there are some future ideas there, a second pole, internal hall, and another parking area camera that could be future. But otherwise, on the interior of that large bay, there's a ceiling unit. So the ceiling unit actually comprises of 4 cameras that look down. We have doors all over that bay, if you will, the large area. And not only do we have doors, but if cameras were installed on the walls looking across, in some cases you would have a big truck blocking the view. at sometimes, depending upon where the truck was parked and where the camera was. This would allow kind of a downcast view of the entire thing. So I think from a, if you look at the fixed assets that we show in our books, there's, I did a quick back of the envelope calculation, came up with about $1.6 million worth of assets, fixed assets that we have pertaining to, the building and the grounds there.
Tim, just 1 second.
Yes.
If this is going to go into any of our present security systems, we probably do not want to discuss in public and
No, I
by
wasn't.
the public. that-
Yeah, I wasn't going to
Just to
explain
keep
what our current security is, but this
Thanks.
this will take care of the one deficiency that we had that I identified last week, and this will also give us the base of what we need now. These prices are good through the end of the month. There's a promotion from a supplier that has provided a small discount. And the only things that are not included in this pricing are the cost of a lift and the lighting on the pole itself for the impound lot, so which would not be something that they would do anyway.
The line to the pole by the impound lot, above ground or underground?
That's underground, yeah, and that is something that the Public Works Director said that he would have no problem doing, and he can still do now, providing we haven't had any hard frost. So what you're looking at is really a one-time cost to provide that surveillance, have it accessible at the PD or here, and have it be consistent with our other systems.
Will the camera at the impound lot be transferable if the impound lot was to move?
Yes,
It would hook into potentially the very same system
yes,
that we might have at another location.
that's correct, yeah. It's all interchangeable.
And that's a requirement, is my understanding.
Defense.
Yes,
that
for,
particular
yeah,
one.
for us to participate in forfeiture, we have to provide certain protections, for any impounded vehicles.
So, usually I'm anti-camera, as you might know. But that's walking around cameras. I don't like being watched. But anybody being watched by these cameras are on town property and shouldn't be. So I would have to be in favor of this.
They're employees too.
Then there are employees.
Has the Public Works Director seen this plan?
Yes, yes, he helped develop it.
Oh, he did?
Yep, we did the walkthrough, we've discussed it several times, did the walkthrough with Mango, and I checked with them more recently, as I did with the board, to see if there was any appetite for moving forward to get pricing. So,
I'm sorry.
Sure. I'll make a motion, we approve $13,451 to improve surveillance at the Public Works facility.
Second. Where does this
Motion
money-
and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, where does this
Yep.
money come from?
From our current 2019 budget, we will be underspent.
Just,
Well, I have several lines that I've identified, but primarily the personnel lines.
So this wasn't budgeted in this budget?
No.
This was not budgeted, no.
So we have the money, spend it.
Well,
Spend it now or spend it later?
it doesn't require raising and appropriating, and it solves the problem. So, and as I said last week, we had identified about $20,000, I think, in total of items that we felt were a priority. And if you think back, when we were originally putting together the 2019 budget, we're all thinking in a certain framework in a certain way. And when we looked at this proposal originally, it was thought, okay, well, we can do this at some point, and it was put off, understanding that if we had the money at some point in time, we could then relook at it again. But what I would say is that from one year to the next, things change. So, now we're looking at, some changes to the building here that we didn't anticipate a year ago.
Oh, I get it.
So,
Our senior center's been broken for 5 years, this surveillance system up there, and we've been broken into 3 times. So I get the need for surveillance. I get that. I think it's excessive. I think that the impound for the criteria and the protection that we need to get the forfeiture money is sufficient. I don't think that we need to be overkill and have this inside where you want it. I think it's way overkill.
If we have a surveillance system on one of our facilities that is broken, how many years you said it's been broken?
Oh, 4 or 5 at least.
Why are we
Hasn't
not
recorded in that.
repairing that?
This is the first I recall hearing about that.
I've heard that one.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
a couple
moving on
times.
to putting
Stealing
in
grills.
new with found monies, but we're not correcting our
Let's just
current
build new.
facility with found monies.
With new technology. There's a need.
Apparently any technology if you don't have any.
well, and this has been brought up to me, and it is maybe a separate discussion how I need to work at the senior center. But I understood originally, that things were more separate there. That my time there was more of a volunteer time. But I was actually planning on. Had a plan for that, but I didn't view that in the same way as here. Now, if the board wants to take a look at that, I can certainly work up something for the senior center that would be reliable and provide us what we need.
As far as I know, your involvement at the senior center would be taking care of a town building, which wouldn't be a volunteer thing. I mean, that's a town building. We're responsible for the safekeeping of the building. Now, what goes on in that building? There's lots of things that go on.
Well, originally when the IT work came up down there, the discussion with the board, and that was years ago, it was more along the lines of, volunteering time.
Well, IT, I can understand that. You're setting up their computers or whatever, their internet and stuff. But the cameras are directly related to the surveillance of our town property. And if we've been broken into 3 times, apparently we need it. So, and I'm not faulting you on any level. I just like to move forward.
Neither am I.
Move forward and take
Well,
care of that,
Yeah, and I can.
if that's possible.
It is absolutely possible. So, it's also my needing to understand how you want to approach the building and the senior center, because in the past there's been somewhat of a discussion. What do we put into the senior center? How much of this is from donations from the senior center versus the town? So, if that can. If maybe in working with Jeannie and the board, I can get a better clarity into that, then
Well, this is a very interesting conversation, but not germane to the motion on the floor.
We have a system up there with 8 cameras. Those 8 cameras, if they worked, would be great, but they don't work.
well,
And the town installed them.
Maybe Joe is right, we should talk
Yeah,
about.
Joe brought it up.
That's a great conversation I
After
want
we
to
clear
have,
this
but
motion.
we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this? I'm going to abstain from any voting on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Let the record show.
So, the security at our building on Grange Road. I mean, vandalism to the building, it's town property. We should at least make sure the building security system works.
And part of what we're dealing there is to be careful what I say, but some of this is a equipment problem, some of it is a software problem.
Do we need a new system?
I would say absolutely.
Is that the QC?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think
Great
we
when it
need
came
to-
out 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I know.
I'm
it's
no longer
changed.
supported, and I have one at my house, put this together.
I mean, I don't know what the consensus is, but it is a town building. We own, you know, equipment
getting broken
equipment that's
into.
in the building.
It's remote located.
It is remote, so I think that we need to make sure it has a security
Well,
system.
I will.
What does everyone else feel?
I will,
Yes.
I will
Peter, what
work
do you
up
think?
a quote for that.
But we need to get something that's functional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and you know, so the advantage of these systems is within our dispatch center, you can have any number of these cameras up being surveilled at any time. This, within the last week, Selectman Dawson was aware that dispatch had sent me an email about a door at Riverfront Park. Now, it turned out, not only did the dispatcher see the door open, but it was a supervisor that was down at Riverfront Park checking the doors. So, but they both things worked. In other words, there was someone out there checking, and the dispatch is able to see right on the screen, you know, the activity at the park. They're able to see the activity at their building. There's no reason why with a similar system down at the senior center and at Public
We can
Works
get
they
that.
can see the same.
We'll get that.
I'll be happy to work
Yeah.
that up, and I'll do that very quickly.
C.
All right, C. So,
I just want to make one comment. I did not vote no for that reason. I voted no because I felt that it was overkill at the Public Works. I felt that we only needed it for the impound and not the entire campus of the Public Works.
Even though we're 1.6.
It has nothing to do with the senior
center.
center. Well, that's my opinion. That's why I wanted to make sure that you knew that it had nothing to do with the senior center.
there does seem to be more liability in Public
Well,
Works.
C, let's just.
locations, But,
that-
okay,
that has-
so.
I wanted to clarify
Wanted to
that.
make that clarification.
So C was the camera that would be similar location to the camera that's on the exterior of the building now facing the School Street and Main Street intersection. A few years ago, two of the employees had talked to me about having some type of surveillance facing that way. One person thought their car had gotten dinged in the parking lot, and but they were also a little uncomfortable at night. And more recently, this has come up again, and we don't have. Well, the lighting is poor. If you leave here late at night and go to the parking lot, number one, the lighting is poor, and there's nothing that shows, what might happen on the way out to the parking lot. So this is one camera. Ordinarily, camera installation and configuration. Ordinarily, I could absorb this in my budget, but I don't have, because of everything else that was unanticipated this year that we had to deal with, I don't have the money in my budget. We do have it within the town hall maintenance and repairs line that we could afford to put this camera in, facing that direction with an illuminator.
One thing, and I always say this, and I'm not going to make any comments on whether we should purchase or what we should purchase, but it has to be very clear to everybody that surveillance and security cameras are not the same thing. Safety and protection is not a security camera. What you end up with is a nice video of somebody getting their
After
car
the fact,
hit,
yeah.
maybe they don't see them, or anything like that. There's
It's after
no,
the fact.
It's
you're
after the
not guaranteeing that anybody is even the tiniest bit safer by having that camera.
That's right.
Or
Right.
a camera watching.
Right.
Unless you have somebody at the police station 24/7 watching very carefully every single one of these cameras. So, they're great pictures and all that. My only comment is you're not providing a security.
No, but
So-
Refer to as security.
If we have employees or volunteers that feel unsafe walking up there, and it is dark, it doesn't bother me, but it is dark, I can understand how they feel that way. should we be looking at something that truly will make it a safer area, such as lighting, before we spend money on a camera? Because John's right, the camera's only going to show the tragedy afterwards. It's not going to prevent it. So
Policy,
if we can
make
do
sure that
something
people
that would
are together after dark.
prevent.
Well, the only thing I would say is that most times when meetings are ending here and people are leaving, and usually it's an employee that's going to be one of the last ones out of here, closing up and going home, that dispatch is on duty during, the majority of those times. I mean, since they're running till midnight. So it is a possibility that it could be one of the required cameras that's up. Whether or not they're sitting there watching it.
But even if dispatch is watching it, if I walk out that door, it's halfway up there, somebody attacks me, dispatch is watching it, they're gone before somebody gets there,
Well,
I'm lying in the street.
And the same thing,
So-
a light could be the same, but at least a light gives
At
you.
least a light is gonna deter somebody. I liken it to, instead of walking down lit Main Street, you decide to walk down an alleyway that's not lit. Where are you most likely going to be in trouble? In the dark alleyway, where you can't be identified. And maybe it's a combination of both. If we have a camera that's very visible to people and a light, it'll
Well,
deter somebody from,
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
but I do think we need to think of lighting, which is probably Eversource.
A monthly charge.
Unless you move a light.
Unless we eliminate a light.
There's plenty to eliminate.
So if we
There are a
have
lot of
one
lights,
and
but
eliminate
Which
three.
one do we eliminate? That's a different conversation. My question would be to Jeannie. You are that town hall employee, oftentimes we're leaving the building last. And what do you think would be required to make that a safer walk? Or have it be perceived as a safer walk? Because the nervousness and fear of what's behind the bush that you can't see is just as bad as somebody being back there. So,
I don't know who had the idea, but I like the idea of the combination of both light and camera, because then both are deterrent, I think. I mean, and you're right. And if somebody at dispatch is looking, at least, I don't know, you have that, maybe it's a false sense of security, but I can tell you that I'm one of those people that, now, I have noted, and I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but it seems like I have, some of my select people seem to wait outside.
no, that's
My
true.
car, so I appreciate that, but I'm not gonna ask you to do that for me. There have been nights when I've been out there by myself, and it's a little disconcerting.
So I have a question for the Public Works Director. We have a light outside this side door that, I don't know if you've ever seen it on, but it's really obnoxious. It's a big spotlight that isn't really directed anywhere.
Didn't we remove that?
Could we utilize something like that on this building on a timer?
Sure, I just have to
That would light,
find the circuit and try to, just find the circuit.
that would light up the path to the parking lot. That somebody could just flick on and say it's on for however many minutes or whatever. Bright enough to light that up. And then we have had people over the years complain about the darkness of our parking lot.
That is dark.
So that's why if we can utilize something on the building to light our path and then light a light in the parking lot.
Contact Eversource and get a light pole up there on the opposite side, sort of like on the Cohen side of the parking lot, coming down side there. That would be perfect.
Well, we have to be cognizant of there's 2 apartment buildings on either side.
Right.
Very close to that parking lot.
Yeah.
But if we had a downshade one that came down, because you have them, the low light ones that come down, just enough light for a parking lot, but not ones that come They just put one in up on Poplar when it went out,
So,
and it doesn't illuminate the rest of Maple Court or down by Cedar Street, it just illuminates right in that area.
Well, could we investigate something like that?
I think one of the things in not only just there, but we might want to do a complete municipal parking lighting study, because if we're going to be providing parking space for these restaurants and things like that, to make it more inviting to people to use those.
I suggested that you talk with
Get to know
Eversource,
us,
he's
yeah.
got a great relationship with them, and see what they come up with.
So,
In the meantime, I'd make a
I'll hold
motion,
off.
I'd make a motion that we put up the camera, because I think along with the lights, it's going to be necessary, but I think the camera should not be an invisible one.
I'll second that.
Now, this is going to have the forward-looking infrared, yes?
yes.
Is that your invisible, Catherine?
I said I want it shouldn't be invisible, it should be very visible. People should know that there's a camera watching.
Yeah.
We'll put a sign next to it, camera here with an arrow.
I'm thinking that this area.
Smile, you're on camera.
I think an entrance in the parking lot sign that says
This area.
Serious video or camera or something,
24.
yeah, under surveillance.
So
Turn on the
keep
Peabody.
in mind, this would be on the corner of our
Take a-
building here.
Look
facing-
on the left, second house.
Will that really do any good at the parking lot? I mean, going to the parking lot, yeah, I can see that.
Some, I think it'd probably capture the handicap on about 3 or 4 spaces.
They're really amazing.
It's a 2.8 to 12 millimeter, so it's, you can
Yeah,
zoom in.
2.8 to 12,
You
yeah.
can zoom in
It's a
very
5
good.
5 megapixel.
Anyway, so, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain.
Okay, and without objection, then I will issue a PO for B and C, and so that we can take advantage of the end-of-month pricing on those. And then, did you want to try to tackle D very quickly? I believe,
Before we slide to that,
Yes.
the Public Works Director and the camera system, have you talked to your employees about how they feel about being under surveillance all the time while they're at work?
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not, you probably have a reason why.
Well, that could be. Some people just don't want to be videoed. I don't
Don't
just
come to
want
my
to be
school
videoed.
then, we've got cameras in every
I
room in the hall.
understand. I understand.
These days you have to assume you're on camera.
Yeah. Well, if you've been here.
Okay.
These guys are kicking butt down there working, and I think they want to
You're
be
right up
seen
there.
how hard they're working.
I know, I understand.
That's
Hello,
good.
Gary.
Thanks, Kevin, for
Yeah.
checking into that with them.
Camera there,
It's important.
so, do we just have the one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the board had asked for a plan of the wall, and this is for the land use office, and the estimate in materials from Public Works is $1,200.
How high is the wall gonna be?
8 feet. And
Oh, I see.
Al and Leanne worked on the land.
Very nice.
And all 3 of the land use, or I should say all the folks up here who would be affected support it.
So it'll be 8 feet up with no ceiling, correct?
Well,
And it will have
Considering
a-
how much stuff is in there now, and that plan doesn't, it has lots of like empty space. I was wondering that empty space is taken up by cabinets and stuff like that, or it remains empty space?
Well, it's,
Refuse.
I don't see there being a lot of empty space because it's gonna come on the other side of that table.
That's
which
what I
will
thought.
be, right, it'll enclose everything, and then
Okay.
there's a pocket door.
What is this right here?
It's the, when you're looking at it
That's a
this
side
way.
view of the door, I
Like a face-on.
An elevation view.
one doorway,
Yeah.
window in it.
Window in the door?
I don't know.
Why?
Oh, it'd be kind of nice to know who's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Well, then you get like a Dutch door, you can open the top half.
Something.
They really want this. This is what they really want.
Just one thing to keep in mind, that we wouldn't be able to put a ceiling on that at any time because of heating system
Yeah,
and
no. Yeah, yes, they understand that, yes, and I understand.
not without major.
It'd be just like the copy room downstairs, which is open,
Divider.
and for that matter, in the break room,
Cafeteria.
the IT room.
IT, right.
It's not to
It
the
doesn't go
ceiling.
all the way up to
Yeah.
the ceiling.
I think
And this
they've
can be
given
re-
themselves a lot more space.
At a later time, this can be removed without significant damage to the floor.
That's what Patty's for.
Please do not say that.
Well, a lot of times when they do that, if they're careful, they can drive their nail in between the boards, but that's very tedious. I've seen it done. This shows an interior wall. Is that office dividers, or is that a constructed framed wall?
Right in the middle there,
Yeah.
about where it is.
I'm guessing it is another constructed wall. Um,
Two offices. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Two separate ones. Leanne is separate from Sheena and Al.
and assessing comes up here too.
Right. Yeah.
So that space downstairs now all becomes a meeting room. And one of the things I did talk to Al about is the idea of bringing those file cabinets upstairs. He said the floor can support it, which would give you more room downstairs if you wanted to move these down there so that they'd be more accessible to the public.
Well, that one, that smaller one, the selectmen voted a while ago to donate or get rid of.
The smaller one, yeah.
The smaller one, we felt we didn't need it.
The larger one from the Grange is,
Yeah, the larger
Put
one
that
is
down
plenty
there.
because we can rotate the stuff that's in it.
So
The
this
only-
one can go?
We voted to have,
Yep.
to donate it. I thought it was to Judy, wasn't it, for her store?
Okay, I'll follow up on that.
I don't
something like
really.
that. I don't know, I don't remember who it was, but I don't remember we donated it. But we'd have to put something on the back to secure, because those are not all from, isn't there some still, Joanne, no, in there?
I'm going to make a
No.
motion that we
It's all ours.
approve the town hall
No.
improvements on the second floor land use wall, estimated to cost $1,200, materials for construction by Public Works.
Second.
Discussion, anyone?
So all the file cabinets will just line up along that wall there, from downstairs?
It could go there, or it could go over there.
Against the front of this.
Oh, against the front? Yeah. Be cleaner to keep that nice and open.
Joe, did you have some?
People will be looking
Um,
enough to see a file cabinet.
No, Catherine?
I'm not real fond of the interior wall, but it's not a deal breaker.
Well, it opens, you come in the door and there's a wall right
Well-
here, so you can butt a desk against it, but this is open, that's open.
Except we're configuring an office space to accommodate, new employee. When we have a few years down the road, what's, are we gonna do
Well,
it
6 months.
again?
6 months down the road, we'll probably do it again.
So if we,
The last employee that we had sitting at that desk wanted a plan like this, or something over there, something that was,
right,
that they would,
after they've been in there for a while, yes.
Well, after he
That
was
true.
downstairs, he
After-
came upstairs,
He
remember?
moved up here, then didn't
Right.
like where he moved to.
no,
Exactly.
there was
Right.
unintended consequences.
Exactly.
So I
We've been
just, like I said, it's not a deal breaker
Right.
though. I prefer it to be partitions like this, but.
Everybody ready for the vote?
Yep. Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm
Opposed?
elected.
Aye.
Unless you have anything else for me, I'm all set. I'll see you next week for the tax rate.
Oh, you want this way?
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Be waiting. Let's see. Excellent, so,
Was that a unanimous vote?
No,
no, that was
4-1.
4-1.
All right.
Okay, next thing, we have Kevin. Oh,
Probably should.
Police Building Study Committee Chair and the Police Building Study Committee update.
Good evening, everyone.
Along with the rest of people who've helped work on this are here too,
Yeah.
so,
Team effort.
yeah, anybody wants to
Talking to the mic, he said.
come on down, they can.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All of us, she said.
Be sure to say hi to Gail.
Donna's writing a story, so speak loudly.
Speak loudly.
That was from an edict from Donna Rhodes.
Well, evening, everyone. Thank you for having us again. As promised, we, full transparency, to present to the Board of Selectmen and update as much as possible on the Tilton Police Station building project. It's been an extremely busy session since the last time I was in, and a flurry of decision-making and time crunches. As you have in front of you, there's a timeline. And that's the timeline that was crafted probably about 2.5 months ago to make sure that we stay on task. You'll see the dates, you'll see the deliverable all the way hard left, and then you'll see initials for the organization that is responsible for that deliverable. That's the same timeline that we've been, and tasks that we've been working on. You probably have other copies of that in your possession.
This one's been updated as we've
In the-
gone along.
As we've gone along, and we're up to date on task with, we're on task. So you probably saw at your last meeting, I was not here for that, but there was obviously payment that was, or an invoice that was submitted by Gary Goudreau, and I assume that that's been processed by the selectmen. As far as upcoming dates, we do have, I probably should stop there and ask, do you have any questions for me in regard to the timeline as presented and discussed?
We'll have to double check with the Budget Committee to make sure they've got a quorum if they're going to do a presentation to the Budget Committee on the 23rd.
Okay.
If you're
October
presenting
23rd?
to the budget committee next week,
It's not going to work.
do I presume that you have a figure
She's still away.
to present to them, a cost figure?
Well,
That could be a problem, that, as I was just mentioning, the 23rd.
yes, as far as timeline goes, so let's talk about cost estimates that have been presented to this point. We do not have a final cost. As you know, hopefully you know, last week, Milestone came to the table with a very rough number as they were held to on the timeline. And the number that they gave us was in the range of 4.8 million. And after loosening collars and discussing that rough number, and I'll go into it a little bit further on the second bullet point, but a meeting on Monday with Milestone. But the key thing here is on this coming Monday night, we have a meeting of our committee. And which Monday night's date is the 21st, correct? The 22nd presentation to the Planning Board, 23rd to the Budget Committee, and then a public information session at 7 p.m. on the 24th. So as you can see, that's extremely full. Jeannie and I had a discussion this week about, are we ready to present on those dates? And it's the fact that our timeline is so tight based on dates that we're really pinned at this point to those dates. We're pinned to those dates.
So we're going to the budget committee without final numbers on The 23rd.
Right.
Yes, to update the budget committee on the numbers that we have now. It's not if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but to bring those numbers to the budget committee is to talk about the range. We have not seen the budget committee yet at all, and to talk about the numbers that we have to this point, meaning what was presented to us last week and then what will be presented to us on Monday night.
I don't have in front of me the timeline and task, but Pat, don't we, the guaranteed maximum price, when is that?
Oh, I don't.
12/2 to
12/2.
12/12.
That's when
We'll have a better understanding.
Which is why
Right.
you're meeting next week, but you're gonna have to come back again.
Yep.
Not sure we have a
I
quorum.
think one thing this committee has learned, that it's better to over-communicate than not. So,
So, yeah, there is no quorum, or as far as we can see, for next week for the budget committee, so it wouldn't be an official meeting. However, they could have a work session.
We don't know
We don't
that
know
yet.
that
we
yet.
don't know that.
What's a work session?
I'm
They either have a
I'm
meeting or not a
speculating.
meeting.
Or non-meeting.
They either have a meeting or they don't have a meeting.
Just like we've done with, I'm sorry, Mr.
Just
Chairman.
let me know that could
We
be-
know there are a few
In conflict with
members out
schedule.
of town.
Well, and I think it's important for us, we've had really good success with transparency and open communication, inviting folks to the table ahead of time. You know, there's been a couple of instances where we thought we should have gone to the table sooner with different organizations to have a discussion about the police station building. But once we've met with them and said, hey, we wanted to chat with you about this and just be in the open, it's gone well for us. So it's our entire committee's opinion that if we spring this on any organization at the 11th hour for this project, it doesn't really enhance our ability to get the project through. So, and I would ask all of you, because we're working for you on this committee and to the taxpayers, that if you see an organization that we should be presenting to and that we haven't, planning board, the budget committee, then please speak up. We're all in this together. So if there's someone that we're missing, or on the timeline wise, if you think that we should not be talking to them now, certainly speak up. But
Have you spoken with Public Works?
have we spoken with Public Works? Our committee has not spoken with Public Works, but Jeannie has and Tim has, on different pieces. We have not presented to Public Works.
I see. I'm just curious.
But I mean, they're a town department, and there's department heads that certainly communicate with them every day. So we have not.
Are you prepared to present to the budget committee without discussing costs?
We're going to talk rough numbers. We have no hard numbers. That's not true. We do have hard numbers of what's presented to us, and to talk to them about our process. Our presentation to the budget committee on the 23rd is really about process and the numbers we have to this point. So the numbers that we're going to give them is not for them to vote on, but it's more of the transparency factor. Am I correct on saying that, Tim?
Yeah.
My concern is if we meet next week, we say a number 4.8, and then
That's what-
December, the GMP comes in at 5.4. We're gonna have big problems.
Well, Peter, that's an extremely valid point, that when we're talking numbers, and this has been the risk of this entire project, of any project, that as soon as the first number lands on the table, that's the only number that folks remember. And we need to remind everyone in our travels throughout the day that when we talk about this project is, if we're talking about 4.8, do not go get a tattoo of 4.8 on your hand, because that's the final number. When we start talking about other costs for the project, there are other costs that are going to come with this project based on contracts that the town's going to negotiate for IT and there's other costs that come with it. When we put a number on the table, we have not done an accumulated line of the entirety of the project.
Equipment and fixtures?
Those are the things that we need to bring forward. We're working on those. So we're not at a final number.
What does the 4.8 include?
But what we spent a couple of hours with Milestone on Monday, Jeannie, myself, and Nate, and we spent a couple hours just with Milestone on things like FF&E and the makeup of the outside of the building, parking lots, a lot of different types of things, and we just cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. Said, do we need this? Do we need that? Do we need lockers? Do we need this? How about doors? Do we need them sliding? Do we need them opening? I mean, there was so much information that we went through each partition, each office, each little cubicle, and we said, do we need this? Do we need lighting? Do we need 2 sinks? Do we go down to 1 sink? How many toilets can we eliminate? How many lighting fixtures can we eliminate? How many plugs can we eliminate? We went through a lot of that on Monday. 2 or 3 hours we were there.
We're waiting for that number of what that reduction.
And we're waiting for that change now to come, what the final number. I mean, some of these numbers were 30, 40, 50, 60, 200,000, 300,000. So, I mean, all of those were monies that we cut out.
Was there any discussion of reducing the square footage?
No.
There was some discussion on doing the square footage, how we could do the square footage to be cost effective. There was a discussion on that, and that was difficult to do, to be cost
But
effective.
for instance, dormers.
On the plan,
They got rid of the dormers.
yeah, we got rid of dormers.
They moved from,
We want to try it this way first.
If I may, I have a few notes here that Jeannie provided, is eliminating attic trusses. We had an entire meeting with the entire committee. We talked about attic trusses and how important it was going to be for our future for storage, that storage is always the number one thing that we turn around and realize that we didn't put enough of it in. So they talked about eliminating attic trusses. That's going to potentially save around $30,000. Change all metal roofing to shingles. That could save potentially $18,000. When we talk about metal roofing, I saw your reaction, Peter, in the negative there, and the metal roofing, we're talking about, it wasn't the entire roof was metal, it was the portions of metal that would be on the roof. So I don't want to confuse words here.
and
That-
they actually got rid of that second.
Right, that second
Which
cut.
actually,
Oh, it makes me smile.
I knew that would draw a smile.
Second, what, hip?
Yes,
Yes.
All that was
The
the
second-
lipstick on the pig.
That's right.
So they got rid of it.
That was
so
just
they
a
got
stat.
rid of the
Got rid of-
lipstick on the pig.
Well, I'd like to think that, I mean, I understand your recognition of lipstick on a pig, but I'd like to think that, you know, a project that we're going to put forward, a project that has some aesthetics to it.
With the taxpayers, it's the function. Basic rectangle, basic L. We don't want ins and outs. We don't want all these added stuff because it adds cost.
Plain building, that's very attractive.
Pat, didn't they also talk about the brick veneer and going to block?
Go into a block that mimics a brick.
So they are working hard. You know, they have listened and
I said that.
I know, we listened.
And I think that's the key thing, is that we're not keeping, from the beginning of this project, we have not been keeping score of who's been right and who's been wrong, or what's bigger and what's smaller. But the fact that we have been listening throughout the whole project, and we talked as a committee of, let's do the first presentation of what we think is a sound project, knowing that there were some items that would be cut. We knew that during that first presentation of the drawings. So, you know, here we are, we listened to, hey, look, we don't want any jogs, so we cut the jog out. The aesthetics of the hip roof, the things that we just mentioned, and they'll come back to us on Monday what they feel will still give us a sound project. Removing sinks and urinals, and going to the bare minimum of what's required. I believe one of them...
We're still above the minimum with what's required with keeping this.
What about the cells? I mean, the cells
Yep,
are
there's two.
overkill.
There's You mean the
For
toilets in
holding
the cell?
cells
We've
are
got the
overkill.
penal fixtures in the cells, we're taking those out too.
I mean, the cell, design of the cells themselves.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're changing this.
Typically, we hold prisoners for
Yeah.
hours until they go to county.
So there's a couple of things going on with the cells. We're removing, we're looking at the cell doors, we're looking at the cell,
When do you think you'll have hard figures?
December.
well, the hard figure is
I
coming in
guess, yeah.
December, but
Right.
he said a week or so we're gonna get the figures that we did with this two-page thing.
Dialed in numbers, we have dates that are hard dates that we need numbers for presentation purposes, but I think it's December 8th. If you,
Yeah, whatever.
I apologize, I don't have the timeline in front of me.
I
but
think it's
December
the second.
2nd?
Total estimate for total tower, oh, no, that's tower
It's the
estimate.
guaranteed maximum.
Milestone produces construction
December
cost
18th.
estimate.
12.
12
To 12/12.
12/12.
So that's really,
That's the time period?
that's the time frame that we're all waiting for. In the meantime, let's back up a little bit and talk about the construction manager process that we chose to go with. That's what's giving us the ability to comb through this entire project, to cull out the things, the items that we feel we can live without, that I just listed through. If there needs to be other rounds of cutbacks, what our committee does not want to do is scale this down to something that will be outgrown before we move in. And we all agreed that this was going to be a project that would get us through quite a timeline for our critical infrastructure in our town. So we're not talking about this in 10 or 15 years of how do we add on, how do we rebuild, how do we make a bigger building. By no means do any of us on the committee think that it's the Ivory Tower or a Taj Mahal. It's what's going to be functional that will get us through. So I think it's important to we have listened to everyone that has spoke up on this project, and it wasn't just our committee. And a lot of the comments that all of you have made, you're seeing results of on some of the cutbacks. So the transparency and making sure that we stay open-minded with this is going to be key right to the finish line. So hopefully on Monday we can look at that. Now, if we think we're going to cut millions off the project and bring it way down to nothing, that's not where we're at, guys. So let's be honest with each other when we're talking about these numbers. We're at the highest number estimate we're talking about is $33,000. We're not talking about $1 million shaved off. So we have to be realistic about it and not leave a false impression.
Are you still?
He doesn't have the whole list. So.
Do you have an entire list? I don't have.
No, I just gave him some examples. but-
Go ahead and read off if you want.
But she's got the whole list, but it doesn't.
Have numbers attached.
Like, for instance, the verified no construction cost first, so they eliminated the standby generator, that was $65,000. The attic trusses, let me see,
Well,
the sign, $7,500 for the
For a
sign.
sign, and we know that, right, didn't Kelly make that one that we can
Don't
bring
we have a
out?
standby generator already?
Well, that's
it's not sufficient for the building,
Yeah.
but
No,
it'll be in a grant.
Yeah.
Right, it'll be in the grant.
Applying for
So what do we
that.
do with the generator we already have?
Sell
Why not use it?
it. If it's not sufficient, why do that? Then get another generator to add on to
No
that
one
one?
said it was insufficient.
We can use it for the senior center and make
No
it,
one has said that.
Actually, if I can push pause for a second on you, we can do it on the generator conversation. Is if you're going to if we plan to move forward as a community to receive grant funds for that, a used generator or trying to repair something that's been used, that's not going to work on the grant fund side.
Right.
So.
And Tim's working on that, the grant fund sign for those things, so.
Certainly the reason for presenting to you tonight was not to go down through item by item and see what else we could cut or skimp on.
we are working on it.
That's the key thing, is we are working
So as a
on it.
selectman, like for me, I have questions.
Well, then come to our meeting.
If we could
If I
get,
could, I would, trust
Okay.
me.
if we could
I'm
get,
gonna try to be there Monday, but
if-
one of the questions I have, are you still looking to build a second impound yard when we already have one?
No.
No, we took it
No.
out.
And are you still thinking of installing a tower that isn't allowed in that area anyway with zoning, but even though,
Communications tower?
Yes.
communications is important for the project and for the way we utilize our police department
but we currently have communications.
at our current police station. If we want to keep it minimalized and keep it to where it's at, that's fine, but if we're gonna build for today and tomorrow, that's part of the project, I mean.
And depending on who you talk to, moving that over there safely, at the age that that tower is right now, the current tower that we have,
So my understanding is that we have a space on top of Belknap, and I'm looking at the chief. We also have a tower on 132, just up from the proposed site, that we can have space on. When that was site planned to go in, the agreement was that the police department, the town of Tilton would have a space on that tower.
you still need something that's going to transmit from the police station out to those towers.
That's right.
Okay, but is that another tower?
Mhm.
And I don't know.
Yes, it is,
And where is the tower at the current police station?
on the roof, right? Yeah.
That's an antenna. I don't call it a tower.
Well, the tower itself would be the structure that the antenna sits on.
And
So-
so the new antenna could not sit on the roof as this one does?
Not if we want it to penetrate out.
And these are some of the questions that I'm being
Not
asked.
the height that they need, that's the way I understand it.
And I do also suggest they go to the meetings. but- Thank you.
So it's kind of the same questions that we've been asking, and kind of the same questions that we've been trying to get the answers to. And so Tim and the chief and Nate Buffington have been very helpful in that area, because I kind of asked the same thing. Can we move that one up there? I don't think that this is going to be reliable enough to move up there and put it
Well,
on.
that was probably updated.
I just had a comment, back when we started working on it and you formed the committee, one of the things I remember you said that buildings such as like we have for Town Hall that will last a long time and be strong and something to also be proud of. And while I realized we could save, and this is my own personal view, we could save 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 on this and that, my personal feelings that we should build a building that we're proud of and that will last a long time, will be rugged, and will look professional looking and have the integrity of a police station. I don't want to dumb it down too much. It's my personal.
No, I agree with you, John. That's been my opinion from the beginning. The other thing that we haven't really talked deeply about is the rates. Hopefully, we're projecting out that the rates from the bond bank, striking while the iron is hot, it could be one of the best opportunities we have to get this to have a long-lasting building. So we're not to that point yet because we don't have hard numbers and we're not ready to present those, but that's the other thing that I hope that all of you can have hovering in the background. Based on questions, if you can't make the meetings, I would ask that if you have a list of questions and that we can ask at our meetings, send an email to Jeannie and we can ask your questions to the committee. If we don't have the answers, likely the technical answers we don't have, but certainly we can push those out to our communications folks, to Gary Goudreau, to Milestone.
Yeah.
So the other thing is if you email those questions, then it goes in part of the digital file and the thumbprint of the project. The other thing the last item that I wanted to share with you before I can try to answer more questions is we met with the Parks Commission last week. That was one of the groups that we were very remiss in having a conversation at the beginning 2 years ago, not 2, but probably 18 months ago, when we started with this particular site. We had a great conversation with the Parks Commission talking about the importance of the field and our efforts moving forward, hopefully with philanthropy, to try to assist in that part of the project. So we really don't have a definitive plan other than the fact that we met with them. They had some great suggestions and insight on the physical being of that. But as I understand it, the Board of Selectmen actually oversee the field and not as far as the owning of the field. And
The park commissioners oversee the ball field.
But the town owns the property.
The town owns the property, but the ball field is under the jurisdiction of the park commissioners.
when you say jurisdiction, does that mean that you have the voting power of everything that's going to happen with it, or do you have to go to the selectmen?
No, they have
The voting
the
power.
voting power of what takes place on that ball field.
Okay.
They have their own autonomy,
The selectmen gave them that a few years ago.
Okay.
hundreds of years ago,
Hundreds and a few.
yeah, maybe.
I don't remember.
Okay.
That's probably right.
They had some great.
Just out of curiosity, when the town purchased that property, was part of that set aside specifically for a park, or did it just become town property? And then we could make it a park certainly, and designate it as a park.
It's not a park, it's a sports field. I mean, we've never designated
And yet
it.
the
Designated
sports
it-
field committee doesn't see over it, the parks committee does. And they always had control of the entire thing
It
when
is
it was
one of the pieces of
before.
the properties that the park commissioners, the
They
Board of
did.
Selectmen at the time asked the park commissioners to oversee.
And at the time, I was just wondering if that's
And we had that
still in
conversation a
force.
few weeks ago.
But previously, the church owned it, and they had the ultimate decision whether anybody could use it or not.
That's
No.
true.
No,
Well, we had a
no, the
lease.
town leased it.
We had
We
a
leased it.
In our lease
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah, it was in the
We
lease
had a lease
agreement.
agreement with them
Yeah.
for like 99
99
years.
years.
So that goes forward to the parks.
Well, that was
So
with
we had,
the-
the Board of Selectmen had this conversation a few months ago, a month ago, not long ago.
Yeah,
And determined that the park commissioners would still oversee the operation of the
right.
park sports activities on that field, because it's not a police station.
If I might suggest for a different night, that the Board of Selectmen and the Parks Commission maybe draft some type of an agreement on how that's gonna work, because it would certainly help us out when we go to deliver this project to the taxpayers at the town meeting. Because it would be nice to collectively, all of us, have the answer to that, because the taxpayers are gonna want answers on that. And if you had some type of, whether it's, I can't imagine it's an MOU, because that's usually between two different communities, but if there was some type of agreement written on paper and not just historically trying to remember.
Well, it's in the
Exactly.
minutes.
Yeah, that's fine, if we can,
It's in the Board of Selectmen.
it would make our cause, I think, going on a team effort, it'd make our cause easier. So, do you have any other questions did I miss anything, Jeannie? We're good? Any other questions for me that I can bring back to the committee on Monday night? Hopefully we see all of you there. That would be great. And
Good.
Thanks, Kevin.
And what time is that again?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Yep. Another night meeting.
Can't get enough of those, huh?
No,
Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all. We're the heaviest lift in town.
Chuck, you're next.
Good night, Kevin.
Thank you, have a great night.
Thanks, Kevin.
I thought you were gonna call the ambulance truck. All in the face. You pushed me.
Thanks for coming by, Donna.
Hi, Jeff.
Mr. Mitchell, it must mean Mrs. Mitchell is here.
Same time.
Oh, hi.
I'm assuming you all got a copy of the email I sent out. And I guess the question that I had that referred to me, Jeannie was, what was my recommendation, suggestion for when to hold the election? And my suggestion was to go ahead and go with what the school district had. My suggestion was to go with what the school district has to offer. Jeannie was there that day, along with actually Kathy and Cindy. And one of the things that the superintendent did say is that, don't worry, we'll find you a place. He was balking quite a bit at the concept of having it at the high school because apparently there is a tentative basketball game scheduled for that day. However, in an earlier conversation, he also said that he could also ask or tell the athletic director to reschedule the basketball game, but I don't believe he wants to do that. I think everyone is on the same page as far as wanting to have the election in one place and leave it there and not keep moving it around. And after the discussions with the superintendent and also about putting in a possible petition in the entranceway at the front of the school, the middle school will work. And my suggestion is we go ahead and go for it, and if we have issues and people feel that maybe the utilization of the town garage is some other place in the future, and because if we have to move it from there, I would assume that no one's going to want to go back.
Well, historically, we keep getting bumped from one building to the other.
Well, we were at the middle school for a lot of years, and then we went to the high school.
And they bumped us for security reasons. At
And
the high
those-
school, we kept having to wait because they would, even though they knew well in advance of our dates, we would have to wait to set up, or, they would schedule things on those days.
Yep.
Has,
Since they're an autonomous organization and we have no
Exactly.
control over that, we have
Exactly.
I mean, right now, they can go ahead and tell us that we'll be able to get in there at noon that day and get set up, and then all of a sudden, the day you show up over there, they'll say, well, we've got a blood drive again, or something like that.
well, another entity has suggested another location, which is the Veterans Home.
I've heard that rumor.
And
We're gonna have 4 elections this year.
the Commandant has assured us of plenty of parking, welcome with open arms, and the use of the auditorium area that's on the back end of the building with a separate entrance.
It is not a place that I have gone up to visit or to look at, and when I was asked for my recommendation, as I understand it, this suggestion of using the Veterans Home is something that has happened fairly recently since I made the visit to both the town garage as well as to the middle school. So I don't believe I can be in a position to suggest or recommend that.
But we still have time to.
Well, it was my understanding that the reason I was asked to come in tonight was so that you could make a decision, and so that's why I am here. And in my estimation, the idea of committing to the middle school is not a bad idea, with the understanding that if we have any problems, then from at the middle school, then we plan on moving it out of there. But, I mean, the people in town are used to voting at either the high school or the middle school, one or the other. I mean, that's not a big surprise. It's not going to deter people from voting.
Chief, you're here, I had a question. Are there any security issues that, have you been involved in discussing the security there, how they would handle it at the middle school?
Sure, so where they exit the gymnasium in the middle school, if we were to move back, there would post officers there, so that people can't then have open campus and walk down the hallway, so we would force them out. The only other way you could do it, John, is to have them exit the doors to face the traffic. That's an option too, but we'll apply the right amount of security to whichever location you pick. So we'll work with them and make sure we satisfy the school.
Any questions?
Questions?
I believe ultimately the decision of where to hold the elections falls with the select board, so you may, it's whatever you end up saying, that's, my job is to run the elections, not to pick the site, so.
But thank you for your input.
And I would just say one other thing, because I did ask the superintendent when he when did he need to know for his planning purposes? And his response was as soon as possible. They'd like to know so they can plan one way or the other.
I'm going to make a motion that we hold the voting at the middle school.
Second?
Discussion.
So, school district versus veterans home or public works will have an additional overtime cost from public works on some of the setup, where the other two, they could work it in normal hours, correct?
Yes.
You've got a superintendent now, how long will he stay there? The next one may or may not say yes to it, so there's no guarantee there. You've got the cost of the wall there, I don't know.
Well, do we have to actually build a wall, or can we just bring a divider?
No,
Dividers.
Divider probably.
it does need to be built, but it needs to be, that you could, constructed. It needs to be able to, if there's an emergency, that it can be, pushed down, so that if there were any sort of an emergency. But the way that, the discussion that they had was that as you walk into those first double doors, you would have maybe 5-foot wall, a 5-foot wall, so it creates you're directing right into the gymnasium, and then you come back out that way.
They want us to build a wall.
Temporary wall. It's not not a permanent wall. So, and Kevin knows how to do that. Kevin's been he's got walls up at the DPW for his classes, so certainly knows how to do it.
I think we need to find a home that we can count on.
Personally,
The veterans home sounds really great, because, I mean, it's plenty of parking, people know where it is, it's, I
It'd be
don't know
good
if
for the veterans.
it's kind of, the
How do you
veterans
get the
would
word out
participate
to
in.
people?
The same way we got the word out that it was moving from the middle school to the high school.
Right. But,
Well, we can put signage right there at the school.
when we went-
certainly.
Or when we went to Tilton School to vote.
We went to Tilton School one year, and we moved from the town garage years ago.
Mhm.
And I would
It's all about
also
signage.
I would also suggest that if you make the decision one way or another sooner than later, the tax bills that are going out, we're putting another Tilton Times in, and we can announce it there too, so people will get another way to know about where it's going to be.
Who needs to go up and make an assessment of the veterans home before we make the decision? To look at it, see if it's feasible.
Would you like to have go up? Chuck, would you consider going up?
I'd like to go up.
Well,
Jeannie,
well,
would you
you're
go?
part of it. You're part of it. You're part
I
of
can go.
the board
I can
with the
go.
voting and everything. Cindy's away, so she can't go up this week.
Well, there's only one day left this week. We could do it sometime early next week, and then you could put your decision off until after we've had a chance to
can make
look
it-
at it.
Do it
We
next
can make
week.
the decision Thursday. You come back with the recommendation and make it Thursday. It's just a suggestion.
Would you arrange that? Are you free Tuesday, Chuck?
Excuse me?
Are you free Tuesday?
I'll have to check with my secretary.
Chief's gonna meet you too for
I
securities.
can go with you guys too.
Tuesday?
I think Tuesday works. What time? 9 o'clock? 10 o'clock?
Probably 10 o'clock. I know I had at least one inspection.
What day is Tuesday? Date?
Tuesday.
The 23rd, 2nd? Date.
Oh,
It's like the 22nd.
it's 22nd,
Tuesday is Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So,
Tuesday.
Ms. Moderator, what would the proper way to stop the motion?
Withdraw your motion and ask the seconder to withdraw the motion. Any objections?
I withdraw my motion.
minute.
And
What was the morning?
It can't be in the morning.
So Joe, you just need to withdraw.
I guess I need to be home in the morning, so how about 1 o'clock?
That's good too.
So you just.
so I withdraw the motion if the seconder.
I will withdraw my second.
Okay, so you're all clean.
Thank you. Have a great teacher.
Well, while I'm still here and the seat haven't been thrown out yet, I just wanted to, I know you all got a copy of the email that we were successful in getting the Moose Plate grant
Very nice.
for about $5,400. The first step on that is going to have to be to send it out to, was it Illinois, Kathy?
First step is to get the select board to sign the papers.
Yeah, well, once we get all the final paperwork, we'll come in and you'll have to sign off on that.
Why aren't you up here?
And part of that grant, of course, was the fact that it will be displayed in a place that will be public.
We're going to be building the wall up here.
So we would love to have, the plan had been all along to put it up on the wall downstairs near the conference table down there, down in the meeting room, which would be a perfect place considering it's 8 feet long and about 2 feet wide. But the map will have to go out and has to be microfilmed and whatever, and digitized. And then once the map comes back, then we have to bring it down to Massachusetts, where it will then be cleaned, matted, framed, and be brought back. So probably it'll be sometime in the spring before all this will happen, and I'm not sure the Moose Plate people might very well, once you sign all the paperwork, send, I guess they allow sending a check for like 90% of it until it's been completed.
This is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's really very
I was
nice.
curious,
Thank you so much
how
for
will you
doing it.
carry that once it's all framed and mounted?
Well, that's going to be the question, isn't it? They're going to have to find some way to deliver it. And they decided not to go with glass, but like a clear acrylic, so it'll, because of weight.
Yeah.
But it's going to be
8
exciting.
feet, I didn't even think of that. This would be 8 feet long. I have a roof rack that could.
No, John.
No, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
But we're excited about getting it.
that's
That'll be
great.
nice. Nice little addition to the town. I don't think there's anything else.
No, I think that's
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks,
You're
Chuck.
very welcome.
Thanks, Chuck.
Tuesday, 1 o'clock.
Yep, I will get back to you once I confirm with the Veterans Council.
Okay, so we're doing pretty good with the agenda here. We have town administrators report unless there's something else.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could do the non-public first. Kevin Duvall, the DPW director, has a non-public that just came up today that he would like to speak with the board about, and since I had a non-public with you, I thought it would be to fit him in now.
Okay, so Tom, did you have anything else that you want to
Bring up.
Do I
bring
have
up?
anything?
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything, as you can see. It's
So,
just, if.
we're gonna go into
Are you
non-public.
going non-public for the remainder of the meeting?
No,
No.
we're gonna
No.
come back and do selectmen's reports.
Okay.
Was
And
it
the
call
town
you or-
administrators.
And
I'm
town
sorry, what?
Was to
administrator.
call you or text you or anything like that?
You're gonna be downstairs?
I'm gonna be downstairs.
I didn't know if
Okay.
you're going next door or you could, you know.
No.
Well, I'll run down and let you know.
We'll come down and get you.
We'll fetch you.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Kevin. All that rain, I went down, I actually watched that rain come pouring down right into the drain. It was sweet. Sweet, sweet. I just was smiling ear to ear, soaking wet.
I'm going to make
But I
a
watched
motion that we go into non-public per RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2. Here we go, A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or disciplining of such employee or investigation any charges against him unless the employee affected has the right to a meeting, and 2, request that may be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Second. Constantino, yes.
Oh, sorry, Dawson, yes.
Fog, yes.
Chessman, yes.
Space.
Scanlon, yes.
Bus is breaking.
We are red, red is run, which is what I should do.
6.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel matters permanently.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Selectmen's report, no, we got Chief Palmier, tree speed discussion, he's gone, right?
I still have.
No,
mine.
look at that.
That's
What am I
last
looking at?
week. That's last week.
Shuffle the deck. I'm looking at.
We
She's
have
not on
town
there.
I
administrator
still have
report.
the report. I'll be-
You have more of the report.
Yeah, I'll be really quick.
And Tom's, yeah, thanks, Tom.
So that surety release from MD Tractor went back to Leanne and asked her about that, and it's actually, the outstanding items were not part of the performance bond. They were just a reminder to the applicant that they said they were going to do these things. That $6,727.50 is part of this, which is outlined here, of the things that are remaining to do per the performance bond, which is, I brought that if you want to look at it, that's what represents the reduction of the bond down to that level. Those outstanding items, again, were not part of the bond, they're just things that they agreed to do, and they're reminding them that they were going to do those, they need to do those things.
How do things get put onto the performance bond as opposed to things that, well, we're gonna do that? Is it listed specifically? Make yourself.
I'm guessing it's part of I'm not an expert on
Oh,
it,
it's
so.
part of the site plan
Yeah.
process, I'm sorry.
Things that they didn't complete to get
No,
handled.
it shows here, ones that are zero or complete, those ones still need to be, that's the remaining amount that needs to be paid out.
I make a motion to reduce bond number 0743297 for Suma Homa Realty, 10 Bitter Lane, Tilton, New Hampshire, in the amount of $228,907.50.
Second.
50 cents.
That's the thing, so.
Oh. Are we
Do we
talking
have a
about-
motion? And do we have a second?
We do.
Um, Is that, is there any discussion?
Peter's
I'll read
going
it sometime here.
So we're releasing the whole bond?
no,
No.
What's
6,000.
just,
So you might have left the room,
right,
so there's a list that, right there, that represents what's outstanding on the performance bond, Peter. Those other items were things that they just agreed to do, they weren't part of the performance bond, and so it was a reminder to these folks that they agreed to do these things. But it's not part of the performance bond,
okay, so they've agreed, but there's no hook on them.
right?
Okay.
So, and they've all been inspected, they've completed their
Mhm.
bitter lane treatment swale, that's complete, it's been inspected.
Everything on there has been done, with the exception of the items that are outstanding, that come up to that $6,700.
And everything's been inspected.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the engineer who represents the town did that.
Oh, our guys
Yes.
did it. Okay. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you. You just sign that, that'd be great.
You want this back?
Yeah, thank you. So the office cleaning contract, would you like to discuss that, or do you want another? I brought copies again of both the current and the proposed, if you want to take, because I know I sent it to you, but I don't know if you want another week to look at it.
Was this a 3-year, or,
I think it's an annual contract, isn't it?
Annual, for the period beginning November 1st to October 31st, 2020.
so it's only a 1 year, okay.
have extra contracts if anyone wants to. No? Okay.
So I compared the two, and they are different. They're not identical. Such as in the town hall portion, it doesn't specifically say anything about cleaning the second floor and the stage. It says sweep and mop all the tile floors, wood floors, basement stairs, stairs to the second floor, stairs to the upper stage area on second floor, and floor of the elevator lift. It doesn't say anything about, and that's very specific.
Does it wood
It
floors,
says wood
right?
floors, right?
That would be this.
Where else do we
So
have
for
wood
me, it's
floor?
uncomfortable that it's not inclusive, because it's one of the problems we've had with the current. I shouldn't say it out loud.
Where else do we have a wood floor in this building? Other than what we're sitting on?
Stage.
The stage.
I'm
Just
just
add
saying,
this
if you
there.
feel that that's explicit enough,
Works for
I
me.
don't.
Could you add the upstairs floor specifically?
I'll have them have that.
Maybe we mark it up a little bit and sign it and see if they'll accept it?
Sure.
Do that now? Oh, do that, Catherine?
They've left out treat stains and spills as necessary and pick up litter and beds, etc. There's things that have been left out of this that are in the other one.
It says vacuum carpets, treat stains and spills as necessary.
I believe it was in the police department that was left out. Yeah.
Vacuum all accessible floors under and around furniture. Disinfect. Well, I can certainly ask Lisa, but she is the one who brought this because she wasn't happy with what was.
Right, but my understanding is this was supposed to have duplicated the original, and it doesn't. So I assume we can add that language in there that is missing.
Okay.
And it says disinfect. You can disinfect without cleaning. So I think it should say clean and disinfect. Then the Grange, the original, again, included them removing, cleaning up litter and butts.
Just remove trash to designated location.
I always hated that word.
Butts.
Butts.
Okay, so why don't I do this, go back and just make sure that everything that's been done in the current contract is included in this contract?
And,
Because that's what you're looking
when I
at.
was looking at it, I thought to myself, well, maybe they don't want them to do that.
And that could be, I don't know,
The Grange tile especially is left down to, there's a lot of things kind of left out.
Do you know if they want their butts cleaned at
It's very different, the contract that they have, that the current one has and the new one has is very different.
is it less, Pat?
Less, yep.
So why don't I go back and ask them to match
Less.
exactly the contract that you have now, all right?
Riverfront Park needs to be done Monday, Tuesday, and Friday.
Is that what is being done now?
Yes. And
So essentially.
in the mornings.
So I'm gonna ask them to do exactly what's being done now. So, all right.
I'm gonna check.
I thought it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
It is, did I say Tuesday?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, and
Just trying to
Friday.
figure out why you were gonna do Monday, Tuesday.
I don't
You're
know.
throwing me.
They're just tired, see, it's, 8 o'clock,
I know,
depending if you're
I know.
on.
It's Monday night crowd.
3 days per week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they do them in the morning, on Monday especially,
Okay.
because of the weekend.
So it's pretty much gonna match the current
Right, that's
contract.
what I'll do. is I'll
Well,
go back.
it doesn't say that in here.
No, I-
It
And
doesn't
she
say-
was gonna take care of it.
It doesn't say in the original contract that they do them in the morning.
so,
That's an agreement that I called up Great Northern Cleaning and talked to Frank and said, you know, it's really critical, because they've been there all weekend with use, but they get there first thing Monday morning and clean up, you know, the mess from the weekend, because we have people that come down from the Veterans Home and whatnot and have lunch there, and sometimes it's pretty atrocious.
You don't find the town park visit cost a little low?
and I asked that
$8,
question.
46.
I asked that
That's the
question.
Milo method. You lowball one area to get the bid.
So, yeah.
But they're
I
still
looked at
doing the
that.
same work.
Hopefully.
That's what, because I asked that question, it was basically to, all right, so
Basically,
does everyone agree? I'm gonna go back and ask them to match exactly what the other contract is, with the exception of, I'm gonna make it clear that you want it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, AM for cleaning at the park.
And I'll be happy
That'd be
with that.
great.
All right,
Okay. Was there anything else from the seniors that they want to change on that? from the
Well, we
original?
can't complain, it's for nothing.
all right, so Tim sent you an email regarding outside agencies. Last week, you said you wanted to meet with there were 3 or 4 outside agencies that had already met with the budget committee, and then I heard tonight that you want, so I'm clear, my assumption was finance budget for the selectmen, that Tim handles that. But maybe that's not true, am I?
Handles what?
Well, I think Pat said, here we are, it's October again, and we said we were gonna get through the budget. I was assuming that Tim was in charge of that, in terms of the budget with all of you. Bringing the budget to you, going through the budget.
Yeah, but these are outside agencies that have various
No, no.
sources of funding and.
No,
But the
I'm having,
municipal budget.
yeah, they're two different, I'm sorry, I'm having
So
two different
When we sit
conversations.
down there and say, hey, you know, what do you think? of
This line, that line,
Right.
can we lower
So
this? Yeah, that's
I
Tim.
made the assumption that when Tim was ready, he would come to me and I'd get it on the agenda.
Mhm.
Is Tim driving the budget with the selectmen, or am I driving Tim to drive the budget to the selectmen? That's what I'm trying to understand.
What you said last, I think, is normally what takes place.
That I drive him?
Well, that,
Joyce
so,
never drove anybody.
well.
Sorry,
so, I mean,
Joyce, I
here's
don't
the
mean
thing.
that to sound bad.
He's presented us with a draft budget.
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
if there was a failure, and not like we're trying to
No,
point,
it's not a failure.
but I just want, I want to know, so I can fix it. So,
I think I think that the loop that we missed was the budget committee not sending it out to the selectmen, because we've always had a joint for outside agencies.
and that happened last year too, I remember, it
Well,
wasn't.
for the last 5 years or so, we've done it.
So again, I'm sorry, I'm talking about two different things. I started out with outside agencies. Do you want me to set up meetings for you with all the outside agencies? Or are you, because Tim sent you an email and asked Marina to let you know when those agencies are meeting with budget committee, or are you just gonna go to theirs, or do you want me to set up your own separate meetings
Oh,
with the outside
Go
agencies?
to the budget committee.
I think we should go to the budget committee. Traditionally, that's where we've done it. And I'd also like copies of the financial statements from the outside agencies
Okay.
given to us.
In our
So we,
book.
in our book, so we can review them.
Gotcha.
so
That's
normally,
mine.
what would happen is they would have a list that was at least a month and a half, if not 2 months. This is all the outside agencies. This is when they're all scheduled to come. So for me, I knew library was coming. And I
On
knew
such and
that
such a
Old
date.
Home Day. Well,
Yeah, but
they're
there's,
not critical committees for me that I needed to be there, and I don't need to interview them. Cap, on the other hand, there's things that have been happening since last year that I want to be in that conversation,
I'd like to see Cap,
especially what took
You wanna
place
see
last
Cap.
week, so.
to make sure that we all are sitting here when Cap gets
That they-
discussed.
They came in,
My point
they
is,
did come in, Jill.
my point is that because I missed those, now I want to talk to them. But if we can get the schedule ahead of time enough so we can all arrange our Wednesday nights to be here for budget, then we don't have to have them come to Tilton twice, which is why we co-meet with the budget committee with outside agencies.
So if we get a list of who we've missed and decide, do we want all of those hands down, regardless who they are, to come in? Because possibly we don't want them to come in. We can look at the financials.
And can I just give Joe an update real quick? Cap, Joe, was 20,000 last year. They reduced it to 12,000 this year because they listened to what we had asked them to do.
I don't recall talking to the people from CAP. I do recall
Per
hearing
capita.
that information.
Right, remember we asked them to
We
go
didn't
back.
talk to them, because I would have liked to ask them how they were charging us so much to begin with.
We asked them that last year, and they said that they would, it was a new director, she would go back and look at it and
I
research
remember
it.
that, but I don't recall talking to her
They-
again this year.
They
That's all
came
I'm
back,
saying.
not last week, the week before they came to the budget. They
Budget.
reduced it to 12,000.
So what I just heard you all say was that I will get you a list of the ones that you've missed so far, and you will let me know which ones you want me to schedule to come in and meet with you. And then the rest of them, you're gonna be getting a list, and you'll go to the ones that you are interested in when the budget committee has them in. Is that what I hear?
Works for me.
99%. One more thing,
Okay,
financial statements from all of them.
yep,
Thank you.
Yeah, that should be in the book.
okay. Now, back to Tim and the budget. I asked the question because what I heard was Pat said it's October, and we said we were gonna go through our municipal budget, and we haven't. And so my question to you is, I made the assumption, since Tim is the finance and he does the budget, that he's driving, he's telling you when he's ready, and he's setting this up.
I would
So,
say yes.
okay, so that's not me to say to him, Tim, you need to be meeting with the selectmen on your budget.
You'll get
He
the,
knows.
but
Okay.
however,
Oversee
However-
it.
Aren't
Make
we
sure it does
driving
get
our
done,
budget?
we drive our budget, but the department heads need to meet with us on the budget.
So you want me to
So-
start setting those up?
Right,
Please.
Okay.
right,
Check with Tim which ones are easier to go first.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably know which ones
Yeah.
are.
He usually comes in with them.
Yes, okay, so I'll have the conversation with him.
Right.
And then, great, okay, and then I just want to circle back, because the ones that were on October 9th with the, so maybe we can get this resolved now. Budget committee on October 9th was the Youth Assistance Program, Waypoint, CAP, and Lakes Region Mental Health Center. Do you want to meet with any of those? Do you
What
want?
was the middle one?
Waypoint?
Waypoint.
What's that?
Waypoint,
It's new?
yeah, it's not new, they just changed their
New
name.
to
One of those
ask us,
changed their
asking
name.
us for money?
What was their name?
Gosh, I don't remember now off the top of my head, but,
I want to hear it from them.
okay, so
That's me.
does everyone
Consensus?
agree
Yes.
that they want to hear from
I
Waypoint?
agree
Yeah.
from that one, I
Consensus?
I
don't.
don't remember the
Yeah.
name,
What
it's a common one.
What about YAP? Does everyone?
Youth Assistance Program?
I
No.
don't need to hear from them. I
Okay.
can look at their numbers and
What about CAP?
cap.
Community Action Program.
Personally, I'd like to see their financial and then determine from there.
I would like to hear from Cal.
You'd like to hear from him?
Yeah, well, they went down to
See the financials first, so you can get your question.
They
Well,
knocked
hired
off
their
Yeah.
administrator,
$8,000.
I think it was last year, and
I'm
they
just
totally
looking for
admitted
proportional.
just pulling a figure out because,
And they knocked it off this year, but
and then, so the budget committee members knocked it down, and then,
We'd like to see proportional with the towns around.
So,
Right.
do you want to see the financials first? I'll
Mhm.
get that for you, and then you can decide whether you want to see them.
Right. Well, we can-
I definitely wanna see Cap.
You want
Do you wanna
Cap to
look at
come
their
in.
I
Financials,
definitely wanna talk
do
to
you want to look
Cap.
at their financials first?
Yes,
First,
please.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes, please.
okay, Lakes Region Mental Health Center.
No,
what's that?
Lakes Region Mental
they
Health Center?
that's
Oh, they were
Genesis.
Genesis,
Oh,
That's Genesis.
yeah.
Same outfit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they changed the name.
Have they already met
financials.
with budget?
They.
Child and Family Services is Waypoint.
Okay,
I
Oh,
just-
is it? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
so.
Child and Family Services is
Is
Waypoint?
Waypoint.
I'll take a look at their financials.
They changed their
first.
name.
Is that okay? Well, I'll look at their financial first and then decide.
Good
That's it.
idea.
That's
What,
it,
Child and
yes.
Family Services?
Now we're back to Genesis.
Waypoint, yeah.
So we're
It's
gonna,
Child and Family Services.
Just send us
We
all.
just said we would like to look at their
Financials
financials and then
first.
decide if we really need them to come in,
Right.
so
So-
they might be exempt.
so we're not gonna look at YAP, I'm gonna get the
Yeah.
financials from Child and Family Services / Waypoint. And you'll look at those first and decide after that if you wanna meet with them. I'm gonna get the financials from CAP, and you are gonna wanna meet with them anyway, right?
It sounds good.
Okay. And Lakes Region Mental Health Center, yes, no?
I'd like to at least look at their financials.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get financials for everyone,
Okay.
right?
They haven't come in yet. You gonna go to the budget committee with them. They haven't come in yet, have they?
Well, they have it on their list from October 9th, that's what I'm reading off of. If they didn't show up,
I don't
okay.
remember this.
So then, October 16th, there was Hall Memorial Library, Old Home Day.
No.
Any one of those you want to hear from?
Just financials.
Financials, okay. Okay, so the historical marker has finally been put in its right place after much struggle. Thank you, DOT. So the 150.
Bag's over, I hope it's facing the right direction under that bag.
No, I looked. It's
Did you
actually on
peek?
both sides.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's
nice.
got writing on both sides.
That's all I'm thinking.
So the 150th committee wants to defer to the selectmen. They thought it was important that the select board be at the unveiling. So, and then as many 150th members can be there will be there. So my question to you is, I think you should try to do it before Halloween, before somebody rips the bag off on Halloween. So I don't know if you want to try to do it before a select board meeting, or if you want to do
Where
it.
is it?
It's right down at Riverfront Park. Or if you want to try to do it,
So that's next week.
it is next week. So
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning,
I can't be there.
This
About
Saturday morning?
It's town cleanup day.
Yeah.
how about Saturday before Halloween's, like 3:30 on the 26th?
That's too close.
Okay.
Oh, no, because we'll be doing a graveyard walk.
Okay, so what about,
I don't know what time the graveyard walk is.
so
1
what
o'clock?
about,
About 4 o'clock next Thursday.
Midnight.
4 o'clock? Can you make that?
4:45.
You can, well, then I want everybody to be there, but,
Yeah.
So
I
4:45?
get out of work at 4, so.
what do you say we do it at 4:45? And we'll.
No, it doesn't have to be, it's not gonna be like the time capsule, it's not gonna be that big. I am gonna invite that
Bruno?
gentleman,
Mr.
yes,
Bruno?
yes, and I am gonna ask the Donna Rhodes to be there.
Mr.
just to-
Cirillo?
Done with
So
it.
both Bruno and Mr.
Yes,
Cirillo?
yep,
I can't think of
yep.
his first name, Mr. Bruno.
So we could do it at 4:45 next Thursday,
Next
before,
Thursday?
before the selectmen's meeting. like I say, it's not gonna be more than 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll be back here by 5, and you can get your meeting going.
Good plan.
Okay.
Good night, Tom.
I'm in. Hey, Tom.
Then, I think there is an update. I asked Officer Gelman to give you an update on the tree streets. It was in the FYI folder, just to let you know what he's,
I have a question on that.
okay.
There's one, he makes a statement in there about the, cutting back the intersection on the brushes, and he makes it, I can't remember, I'm beyond exhausted, but, about the, it doesn't matter because the leaves are leaving the trees anyway, but it does matter because they're, at the intersections, they're not trees, they're bushes, and they don't lose their leaves.
Okay,
So we really need to think about that
okay. Okay,
on a couple of the intersections, particularly the one up by Abbott's and also the one by the Tilton Manor.
okay. All right,
So
you got your well
I think it's a
economic
bush,
study.
something like that, yeah.
And just as an FYI, I did try to, as follow-up from last week, try to set up a meeting with the Water District. I had a conversation today with Scott Davis, who suggested that we wait until January because you're doing research on the property lines, and it should be done by then, and then we'll have a conversation. So if you're good with that, we'll just wait until January.
Well, I think one of the things is we'll have to budget for this.
Well, that's in Kevin's plan, right? When Kevin comes in, he wants to do Academy Street.
He's
So we
only
can-
accounting for paving the road and rebuilding it and leveling it up, but
It's gotta
the
be
wall
capital
itself is not included in that, so we need to figure
So
out how to pay for it next year.
you can put it in the budget and then take it out on the floor, make it a warrant article.
We still have time to make it a warrant article if it's in
And
January.
then amend it?
And amend it if necessary.
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
good idea.
either, wherever you're gonna put it, you can
Right.
take it out.
Yep, as long as it's
You're
in,
doing good for 8:15. Thank you.
And we're going to put up the variable message board on Friday to promote the public information session next week, which we'll have. And still need to, upcoming is, I need direction from you about, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but just as a reminder,
prizes.
the crosswalk on Winter Street and Riverfront Park, what you want to do there. Maybe nothing at all. Avatar, I asked you last week if anyone wanted a copy of the last year's contract. I didn't hear from anyone, so I'll ask again if anyone wants to see it. Tim's looked at it. I actually had Leanne look at it, and I've looked at it, and it's good. I did talk with 2 attorneys about the Tilton Northfield Island. They both pretty much said the same thing. There are 2 ways to do it, to do this conveyance. One, which they both prefer, would be the simple way, is just try to contact the heirs, do the research, and get it done. That may not work. If that doesn't work, they'll have to go to the court and petition the court. So that's a little more elaborate, but they both seem to think that, and both are familiar with the deeds, and both have worked on this issue when Joyce was here. So one of the attorneys is saying they can do it for $3,000, another is saying you can do it for $5,000. So I'll give you that information next week. I'm just telling you about it now. And then I do have 3 quotes on the Tilton Northfield Island. They're not, one is not a formal quote, it's a handwritten thing. I'll bring that to you next week. I'm just telling you about it. This is for the tree removal. I've got one quote that, you know, they're saying they'll trim it for $900 or they'll remove it for $1,800. I've got a quote for $2,500 to remove it, and I've got a quote for $29.70 to remove it. So, just something to think about. And I think, I put on your, yes, on the back, the reminder of, just note the reminder. That's all I have.
Are we all set with prizes for the Halloween? And do we need extra pumpkins on a stick to the numbers that
We
Southwick
got that.
made? Did they all get returned?
We had a lot, we had,
Okay,
yeah.
so we need how many prizes? Or I think we did 25 last year, 20, 25, something like that.
Yeah.
Time is that Tuesday meeting?
Is it on the,
Didn't you say 5:30?
I think it's 6, oh, I didn't put it down, I'm sorry, 6 o'clock.
I have a 6:30 plan. But I'll be there at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't put the
No?
time down.
Tuesday, it's at 6.
Yeah.
Here we go, meeting every night.
Wednesday, the budget too. Police study.
Every single
Um,
night.
So, John, we're in Selectmen's reports, and you're first.
Okay. What first? Okay, so, I'll be pretty quiet. I think I had a little bit of difficulty setting up one of my emails here. Late last night, driving through town, the water in the Winnipesaukee River looked like a light coffee, very, had the sand and the clay in it. I attempted to contact Catherine. I contacted Chuck Mitchell from the Conservation Commission, and then I got in touch with Jeannie, who was just heading out to go home. But I had followed it up. I knew right where it was going to be coming from. And underneath the bridge under 93, the piers, there were 3 triaxle trucks just pulling out from down by the river. And they were doing some work, putting in their coffer dams and that, and stirring it up. I asked for somebody else to go with me. Jeannie was able to show up. Catherine was about 30 minutes or 20 minutes out. So went to talk to fellow Jason from DOT, Levitt or something. And he didn't, I expressed that, the water and the silt is running through the center of town, and that I did not see any silt fencing in place whatsoever on any of the property. And he informed me that he didn't need to, that he didn't think it was necessary. And I pointed out the violations and the problems that were going on. And he said, and that I could see the roads they built out into the river and along the side. He said the one along the side has always been there. And I tried to explain, I've been kind of, when we went on, you got an email. But anyway, Jeannie was with me. I took a few pictures. I also talked to Jim, who showed up, who was Jason's boss. And I said, look, we've got a big storm coming. You guys are still digging around down here. I would at least, a minimum, appreciate that you installed some type of protection before this rain started coming in to minimize any runouts or washouts. Jason wasn't happy about that, but Jim said he would. He said they never had it before, and I pointed out the pile of socks in the bushes that have been thrown there, and he said they never had any. So but we didn't get far with Jason, but after we walked away from Jason, talked to Jim, and he seemed like he was on it. But I did a follow-up report and sent a letter, everything that happened to DES. Not as a selectman, but as a citizen. And Conservation Commission, actually I might have put selectman on there too. But just to let them know, and I also put the file number with their previous complaints and violations that they've had for the same thing. So I did notice today, I didn't see anything running down there, so that's great. And it's staying on them,
Thank you for doing
keeping
that.
our river clear. Besides that, that's was my exciting week.
How's the Delta? Did he tell you it was a Delta? Or it's always been a
Oh,
Delta?
yes, so he said, oh no, that's a delta. And he goes, you know what a delta is?
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking a triangle.
Yeah, that's
Right?
right.
And he goes, a delta. And I was like, he goes, you do know a delta, you do know what, he goes, like in the Mississippi River, it's just like one of those. And you always see the murky water coming down from it. And I was like, that's runoff from farmers and farms. And he said, no, that's the whole make up this. I said, look, it's a stone river, it's not a single river. It wasn't long. I think Jeannie probably noticed. I was getting very frustrated. I realized it wasn't worth talking to this fellow. But DES has it. I have some pictures that are very clear, and I trust that DES will do the right thing.
I hope so.
And also get our bridge repaired at the same time, which is necessary.
So, did you contact DES, or you were asking the board for?
I sent the letter. I
Oh.
went ahead and did that.
Okay.
For Conservation, I did contact Conservation Commissioner and Catherine. And I thought it would be important to get them up there today if possible.
It's something DES should know as soon as possible, so it's good you sent it.
But that's it.
The Delta.
The Delta, Mississippi Delta. Go sing out there, play some blues, go fishing, catfish. Crawdads, hush puppies. And who's next?
Pat.
The Senior Center is having their pancake breakfast on Saturday from 8 to 10 at Applebee's. It's $10. The health inspection, we did get one of the items. Did you get that? I sent it to you, a copy of the health inspection that we got from the state. I emailed it to you.
I probably missed it.
Okay. So we did get one of them fixed, the air gap. The plumber was up
Oh,
there.
you did?
Yeah, yesterday. And the flooring should be done with Chief Cormier's meeting with East Coast Flooring, who's donating the labor, and Lowe's is donating the materials. So I'm asking the Board of Selectmen to reach out to sewer commissioners, if you know of any, that and find out an ETA on repairing the damage done by all those big machines up on Maple Court where they were staging, because the lawn up there that one of the residents have been manicuring for the last 35 years is now all potholes and garbage. So it looks like it's been forgotten up there. So I don't want it to be forgotten, because it's a lot of work.
Can we notify
So
the sewer commission?
If you could reach out, Jeannie, to the sewer commissioners to find out where that, if that's gonna get repaired.
Is there an address?
It's the side of the road on Maple Court, it's the town
Where the
property.
pipe-
It's where all the tractors have been staging,
Okay.
so it's in and out, it's kinda damaged. We don't have any more lawn there.
Okay.
And the resident, I'm been assured that they'll continue maintaining it as long as they can fix it for the next 30 years if they're alive.
So you basically want to make sure that it's going to get repaired.
Yeah.
Okay.
in the
They
next-
said they would restore it, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, they said they would. I'm just
Just asking to make sure.
I'm just
try
a
to get
diligent-
paid when it's gonna get done.
diligent resident, that's all.
Mhm.
And also the Halloween costume parade. Joe and I are going to be judges. Anybody else want to jump in and be a judge at 4 p.m. on Saturday the 26th? We lost one of our judges to North Carolina, so if you think of it, it's going to be at 4:30 is the children's parade, and they come start off at tee-up, and then they come down in the middle. Takes maybe about a half hour or so. A lot of fun.
I just want to mention, since you brought that up, that 94-1 Mix.
Yes, Mix 94-1.
He came to the 150th committee meeting yesterday, and they are doing a fantastic, did you hear the ad? They created an ad. I'm sure people will hear my name and think, what happened to her?
For the
The
zombie walk?
and the children's parade, they covered everything, and what they're doing is they're going up and down Main Street and selling ads to the businesses so that they'll get all this coverage, and they're playing it on all their stations, so it should be a really good time on Saturday. 'Cause
And
they're really helping
I
promote it.
understand that Deidre, who does the trunk or treat, that's kind of spearheaded the trunk or treat last year, now has Holy Trinity coming down for the trunk or treat, so it's going to be
Outstanding.
Awesome.
even,
The more the merrier.
So
This
that's
is a good
26.
time, if you haven't been.
Yeah, well, I'll be there.
it's
Oh,
really
that's
good.
great.
Well, then
26
you
You
can
could
help
be a
judge.
judge with us.
You can help judge with us. And give out the little
Start what time again?
It starts at 4. The trick-or-treating downtown Main Street starts at 4. The parade starts at 4:30. And then the zombie walk is at 6:15.
The staging for it is at 6:15.
It's
They
staging
start
at
walking
6:30.
And then the walk is
You see.
6:30. And then the trunk-or-treat is all throughout the night, and the dancing, the whole bit. And Bob Cormier is the DJ during the 4 o'clock portion of it.
I think he might be down at the Tilton Island Park because when the zombies go down,
Yeah, well, it'll be over then.
Right.
He goes down there.
they're gonna be in 2 different places, yeah.
Yeah, because we have Fred, and then
Right.
for about a half hour or so, and then they go down. So it'll be a lot of fun. It usually is. It's huge. It's a big difference from a couple of people, and the businesses all open
Getting
up.
busier every year.
Yeah.
It's bigger every year.
So we need to contact the chief. I forgot to ask him today to see if he has the 3 prizes. 4. It's 4, right, for the businesses.
We have little things, little ice cream.
Well, those are for the kids. He's got those.
Yes, yeah.
I've asked him. He has those.
Yeah.
McDonald's gives us those. But for the businesses that dress up, there's
Oh, yeah.
we give the
Yeah.
business owners.
And the parade permit is complete and submitted.
Yeah.
Oh, we did send it.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
For the zombie,
I hope we sent,
Everything.
I
Wait,
hope we
wait.
Closing
sent
down
one
Main
for
Street
Christmas.
and everything else.
I put it in the file.
Just hope.
Okay. Well, you want me to ask them?
Thank you.
That it? Yeah.
that's it for me, yeah.
I just have that. Did everybody get the email on
Score.
yep, Can't Even Talk, the,
Whatever.
Jamestown Canyon virus that was detected?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're
Yep.
welcome. And they said they were gonna send out a press release, but I didn't get it in my email, so I went to
Heard
their
that.
site.
I heard it on the radio.
I saw it
News.
in the newspaper.
And so I asked him if he'd put it on the website, just because a lot of people
Mhm.
think, because it's cold, there's no mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But really, you have to have 2 hard frosts,
Mm-hmm.
so there's still mosquitoes. And
Oh,
I
yeah, they
did,
were on my bus today.
because we're now at moderate. And we used to be down here at low. So, anyway. So mine's just kind of a point of order. On our website, down near the bottom, I think it's like the second to the last paragraph, it says that any new business moving into existing commercial structures should require this, blah, blah, blah. All new businesses coming into town be required to register with the land use office in the town of Tilton. That's our ordinance. On the website, it includes, all existing businesses must also have their businesses registered with the town. Now, that isn't so. We don't have any ordinance, in
Right.
effect, that requires existing businesses to register. So what we're
That's
got
correct.
on the website is misleading and incorrect.
Well, then we should fix
Yep,
So we need to change that.
yes.
it. Easy fix.
I mean, if we want to add,
So you're saying existing businesses don't?
yeah.
It wasn't ever
This
accounted
is the
for,
ordinance
just new
in the zoning,
businesses.
that's what it says.
That's
On the
wrong.
website, it includes this.
That's wrong.
That's wrong. Absolutely. Well, I'd just like to see it corrected.
Yeah. Good catch.
Well, I've had, existing businesses come up to me and I was like, what are you talking about?
You gotta get a new hobby, Kathy.
I gotta start shopping in Concord. That's it, I'm good, thank you, John.
Peter?
Tomorrow, Saturday, final 2 days of the fall amnesty at Public Works. You can check the website for what's accepted. Generally, it's the same stuff year to year. Hazardous waste is not. Liquid paint is not. If it's latex, you just put it in kitty litter and let it dry out that way, and you can throw it in your regular garbage. That's it.
Pass.
Anything else
After
to come
8:30, I
before
pass.
the board at this time?
Come on, Joe.
Seeing as there is none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Oh,
Aye.
My face, I can take sandpaper. I'm allergic to people, so somewhere I came in contact with somebody's person. That's all I want to do.